Good morning, YouTube. My name is Amisbro. For this video, we are going to be discussing New Japan 2015, the semifinals and the finals as they took place yesterday. And we have our champion, we have the belt he is challenging for, and we had one of these scariest bumps possible. But let's discuss this in great detail, starting with match 1. The first match was Jushin Thunder Liger, Kushida of the Time Splitters, and Jay White as they took on Tiger Mask, Máscara Dorada, and Ryosuke Taguchi, the Funky Weapon. Winner was Tiger Mask, Máscara Dorada, and Ryosuke Taguchi by pinfall. Michinoku Driver on Jay White, who has yet to score a victory in any match in any of the shows that I have seen up to this point. He and Sho Tanaka, but we'll get to his match next. But good match. Was I a little surprised? I think Kushida actually got in very little in the match, which was surprising. Jay and Jushin Thunder Liger actually seemed to take up most of the match, which I was fine with. And getting to see Tiger Mask, of course, is always fun, and as well as the Funky Weapon. But I'm trying to figure out Dorada's situation. Like, is he going to be going for Kenny Omega and the Junior Heavyweight Championship, or what's the story with that? Because I remember I saw a match, I want to say it was New Beginning of Sendai, when he was talking to him, and I'm guessing it was for a challenge for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, but we shall see in the long run. Match 2, Satoshi Kojima and Yohei Komatsu took on Yuji Nagata and Sho Tanaka. Winners were Satoshi Kojima and Komatsu by submission with the single leg crab on Tanaka. Really good, really hard hitting, and really stiff at times. But you kind of expect that when you watch a New Japan match. Tanaka has not won a match against Komatsu, single or tag. I think this is the third time I've seen them wrestle, maybe the fourth. But in any of the matches, Komatsu always has won. So I don't know if they're setting something up later or what they're going for, but it was interesting to see Tanaka take the fall again. Then we get to our two New Japan Cup matches. Haruki Goto took on Togi Makabe, and Goto won when he literally tied up Makabe like a pretzel and got him in a very unique pinning combination. You would think it was like a version of the Sharpshooter or Scorpion Deathlock, and he basically put the weight of his legs over Makabe's shoulders and got the 3 count, which means that we will not be seeing a potential Makabe Ishii rematch. But then we get to a really, really good, really solid match. By the way, in case anybody is wondering for the time for that match, Makabe and Goto, that went 8-11. That was actually the shortest of the 3 matches. So, Goto had to face someone, right? Well, the next match, semifinal 2, was Tetsuya Naito versus Kota Ibushi, and holy shit, look, I appreciate a good wrestling match, and this was a good wrestling match. This was probably, of the 2 semi-final matches, one of the best. Well, this was the best of the 2, obviously. However, there was a moment that occurred in this match which was scary as all hell. I'm going to go through and find it again so I can screen cap it and put it on my Twitter. But what happened was Naito was going for I think he was going for some type of forward roll pinning combination. Well, Ibushi blocked it. When he blocked it, he jumped up, and the position that Naito's head was, when he came down, his neck actually just about, folded up like an accordion. And the referee had to check him because that's serious. He could have been paralyzed. People say about the Styles Clash. The fact was, it wasn't even just like the person it wasn't like Ibushi just dropped down. He jumped up and landed. When he hit the move, I was like, holy hell. And then, of course, later he hits a kick on the back of the dude's neck, and then hits a sit-out powerbomb for the victory. But the story of the match was that Naito was injured. Now, how bad was it? Again, that's to be determined. But you have to think, when people are scrutinizing AJ Styles for use of his Styles Clash move, things like this, you cringe at. And anytime now something like this happens, it has to be scrutinized heavily. You just pray that something isn't really wrong with Naito. They put the heating bottle or hot water bottle on the back of his neck. Hopefully nothing's seriously wrong with him. That scared me. Then we get to matches. Then we get to the second half of the show. Match 5. Katsuyori Shibata and Tomoaki Hama took on Tamatonga and Cody Hall. Shibata and Hama won by pinfall with a penalty kick followed by the Hama headbutt. But you know what one of the stories of this match was? And this was interesting. Shibata, if he teams with anybody, it's always Goto. Goto's still in the tournament. He's not. So Shibata and Hama actually got a little chippy with each other during the match. And to the point where they were knocking each other intentionally off the apron, to the point, quite literally, where it turned into a handicap match at times. There was a point where Shibata was actually looking for the tag, and Hama just kind of blew him off. And you're wrestling the Bullet Club. You're wrestling Tonga and Hall. And I see a future for Cody. It may be in Japan, because I don't want to see Cody go back to the US and go to WWE, because I think his future's in Japan. I really do. Especially with his size, shit. He's a freak of nature. He's at least 6'7". So him using his father's outsider's edge move, or razor's edge, yeah, I could see that. But Shibata and Hama won the match. Then Hiroshi Tanahashi and Captain New Japan took on Sakuraba and Toriano. Okay, this one was interesting because usually, from what I've understood, if Captain New Japan's in the match, he almost always takes the fall. Well, that didn't happen here. Sakuraba and Toriano win by pinfall. This is literally how it worked. There was a slingshot into a Sakuraba kick followed by a cradle from Yano. And the pinfall was on Tanahashi. I don't have that wrote down, but that's like now, if you want to really break it down here, we're counting shows that are actually televised. New Year's Dash. This is ever since Wrestle Kingdom 9. New Year's Dash Let me think. New Beginning in Osaka. It was either Osaka or Sendai. It was one of the two. But the New Beginning. And now being bounced from the tournament by Yano and getting pinned by Yano in the tag match. That's like 4 or 5 losses, if I'm not mistaken. That's since he retained the belt at Wrestle Kingdom 9. Think about that. I don't know if the story is ever since Wrestle Kingdom 9 he's been on a bad luck streak and he needs something to pull him out of it, or what. But it's interesting to see how the Ace of New Japan has kind of fallen a little bit. Is his star finally starting to wane? Who knows? It'll be interesting to see, though, if he can pull himself out of this funk at the next show on April 5th, which is when we'll be covering Invasion Attack. Next match. Chaos. Shinsuke Nakamura, Kazuchika Okada, Tomohiro Ishii, and Yoshihashi took on Bullet Club's Carl Anderson, Doc Gallows, Bad Luck Fale, and Yujiro Takahashi. Winners were Nakamura, Okada, Ishii, and Yoshihashi by pinfall with the Rainmaker Lariat on Bad Luck Fale. There has to be a match between these two factions, and it has to be stipulated that the faction that loses disbands. Period. I'm not saying I really want either to go, although you know that if I want either, it'll be Bullet Club. But the way these matches have set up between these two groups, it's almost like they're really building that story to go to that point where it'll be an elimination match, or it'll be something, because you can't tell me that the way Guido and Jado have this booked and the way they're looking ahead is, you know, there's gotta be some give between these two factions. And it's obvious that I think the one that the fans are really behind, it seems, is Chaos. There is a group of fans that are really firmly behind Bullet Club. But I wonder, if we really want to break it down, I wonder if the reason that the Bullet Club is booked the way they are is so that they can draw in a more international audience. Because there was the opportunity that the Bullet Club, if say they didn't get any belts, right, on Wrestle Kingdom 9, that we could probably start to see the dissolution of it. So I wonder if they're being booked to have all these belts because they really want to get the North American audience. I don't know. It's just something that's always interested me when it comes to the Bullet Club, and something that I'm really, really looking at. But that was match 7. The main event was the final of New Japan Cup 2015, Hiroki Goto versus Kota Ibushi. I don't have it wrote down here, but Ibushi won twice. Goto went for his suplex side slam, which I call the elevator because of who uses that move or who used that move elsewhere. But twice he went for that move. Twice it failed. And Ibushi won with his top rope splash move. And then it came time to make the decision of what belt was he going to go for. Because remember, there are three title shots that were at stake, or one of three title shots. The IWGP Heavyweight, the IWGP Intercontinental, the Never Openweight title. Well, he's challenged and failed for the IWGP Intercontinental. So believe it or not, one of the broadcasters mentioned that, basically mentioned this in Japanese, that, you know, you've wrestled Nakamura before, so you probably want to go for that belt again. And while he mentioned that it would probably be nice to challenge for the title at Invasion Attack, he wanted to go higher, basically. So, on April the 5th, the main event will be AJ Styles versus Kota Ibushi for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Could this be the beginning of really starting to try and get the Bullet Club out? Because they always say the best way to kill a snake is to chop its head off. And AJ Styles right now is the head of the snake. He has the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. You don't think that Ibushi wants to wrest that belt away from him and bring it back to the Lion Mark? You know he does. The question is, can he do it? We will find out on April the 5th, which is 3 weeks away from now. From 3 weeks away from last Sunday. And you and I will be reconvening on that day to go over Invasion Attack 2015 on pay-per-view. And I'm going to say, as far as this show, it wasn't a bad show at all. Was there some things I would have done differently? Well, I can't say I would have booked anything differently, but there's a part of me when I'm looking at this, when I looked at the One Chaos match. Okay. Ibushi didn't challenge for the Intercontinental, so therefore Nakamura, more or less, unless they find somebody to put him with, isn't going to be defending his title, right? Okay. Wouldn't it have made sense to, during the 3 days of the tournament, to put him in a match with someone? Didn't matter who, just someone. He could win the match, but put him in a match with someone, even if it's non-title. Well, no, do it this way. If it's non-title, he could lose the match and then wrestle at the next show and defend the belt and retain it. That would give him something to do as far as a singles match. But he's been booked so far in, for these 3 days, he was booked in a tag situation all the time. Which kind of made me wonder, are you really trying to protect him as far as the champion? Because eventually he has to lose it. Right? It's just, who are you trying to wait for that he loses it to? That's my only issue. I was surprised with the way the Ibushi match, not the finals, but the semifinal, because I would have stopped the match actually after that scary situation. I just would have called it. Ibushi would have won because I wasn't going to risk another wrestler's career, because that bump. If the match gets put on YouTube or Daily Motion, watch it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Because he landed Naito landed in such a way that it scared me. Literally. Like I had flashbacks to Steve Austin when he took the tombstone the wrong way from Owen Hart. And I pray that something like that doesn't happen to Naito, because he seems like he has a bright future ahead of him, and a bump like that could really do some damage. Serious damage. So, the tournament itself wasn't bad. The matches. I do think that they could have devoted some more time to the match, because you have a tournament which determines the number one contender to one of 3 titles. Okay. I'm trying... let me look through here real quick, and then we'll end the thing. But... okay, no tournament match on here went longer than 15 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me look. So I want to say that... okay. 2 matches, really, went longer than 15 minutes. Think about that. And this show went for 3.5 hours. You mean to tell me that you couldn't have the tournament matches, especially considering you only have really 3, you couldn't have them go longer than the non-tournament matches? Do you see what I'm saying? The priority should have been focused on the tournament, not the extracurricular matches, especially if you're not having either of those 3 champions wrestle in a match where they're setting up a contender, possibly. All the tournament matches should take priority. That's just a given. You know what I'm saying? I mean, hell, they were all scheduled for no time limit. So what happened? You know? Don't get me wrong. The show is good. You should check it out. But that is my one big criticism. The tournament matches needed more time than they got, because some of them went less than 10 minutes. And they weren't scheduled for a 20-minute time limit. Just saying, kids. But dudes, go check the show out. And the next time we convene for New Japan Pro Wrestling is April the 5th. We'll be covering Invasion Attack 2015, when Kota Ibushi takes on AJ Styles for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And we find out whether or not the Bullet Club will lose their precious IWGP Heavyweight Championship. I will talk to you then. Sayonara, everyone.